Welcome to Explainer Insight. Today I'm going to explain a thriller movie called Oldboy, released in the year 2013. The film starts in 1993, where a man named Joe is going back to his office after lunch. He is an alcoholic and he drinks even during the day at his office. Joe is told by his boss that he has to get a new client to sign a contract with their marketing agency. Joe's job depends upon this deal. After this, his secretary asks him to call his ex-wife, Donna, who tells Joe that he's a terrible father because he won't even come to his daughter's birthday. On the other hand, Joe says that he has an important meeting so he can't come. He says his daughter MIA won't even notice because she's just 3 years old. Joe goes to the meeting where he convinces the client to join his agency. When the client goes to the bathroom, Joe starts flirting with his wife and even grabs her. This makes the client extremely angry, who punches Joe before canceling the deal. Joe knows that he has lost his job, so he starts drinking heavily that night. He's so drunk that he's passed out on the side of the road and he's barely walking around the city looking for alcohol. He buys a small rubber duck for his daughter from a vendor in Chinatown. He tries to enter his best friend's Chucky's bar, but Chucky tells him that he has already drank too much, so he should go home. This is where Joe encounters a lady standing under an umbrella. He goes with the woman and wakes up inside a strange room. The room is rather minimalistic, and Joe goes to the bathroom to find that no one is inside the shower that's still running. Joe looks around the room, but there is no one there. And he finds some underwear in the drawer. Pretty soon Joe understands that he's locked inside that room, which he considers to be a motel room, when someone brings him food. He tries asking them why he's there, but they don't tell him. Each day he has served the same food along with a bottle of vodka, and Joe drinks heavily. Then one day Joe is trying to touch himself, when her gas is released and he passes out. Some men collect his hair and DNA samples. A few days later, Joe sees on the news that his wife, Donna, has been murdered and the police found his DNA on the crime scene. He is getting crazy due to his loneliness and he befriends a mouse. However, one day he finds the mouse on his dinner plate, which breaks him. Joe cuts his wrists and tries to take his own life, but when he wakes up, he sees bandages on his wrist. He knows that someone is watching him and even spots the camera inside the room. Joe has lost all hope at this point, but that's when he sees his daughter on a popular crime show. She has been adopted and she plays the cello. Joe decides to clean up his act and stop drinking. He even exercises and he planned to meet his daughter one day to apologize for being a terrible father. A man named Cheney is watching Joe live out his life. Joe spends his days writing letters to his daughter and he's trying to make a hole in the bathroom wall. Meanwhile, the outside world keeps changing, and 20 years later, Joe is ready to escape. He makes a big hole and puts all his letters inside a pillow cover. That's when he sees the same crime show on the TV, which is explaining how Joe has been missing for 20 years. The host is talking to MIA, who says that she is willing to forgive her father if he wants forgiveness. Right. Then the room gets filled with gas and Joe wakes up in a box. He's in a park and he has a phone, his letters, and some money with him. He sees this same woman with a yellow umbrella and follows her into the city on his way. Some football players try to stop Joe, and he beats them up real bad. He keeps looking for an umbrella, but a homeless man has it. Joe is angry at the man, but a doctor named Tom and his assistant Marie stop Joe. Joe decides to leave that place, but Marie gives him her card and tells him to call her if he ever needs help. Joe goes to meet up with Chucky, who doesn't even recognize him. Joe explains the whole situation, and Chucky wants to know why anyone would do this. This is when Joe gets a call from his kidnapper, who says that he will be meeting Joe pretty soon. Joe makes a list of all his old clients and enemies and then spends the entire night searching on the internet for these people. The next morning, Chucky finds Joe lying on the ground and he calls Marie. Marie says Joe just passed out due to fatigue and she gives him some medicine. Chucky is working at the bar, so Marie looks after Joe, and that's when she finds all the letters. She starts reading all those letters, and she's invested in Joe's story. Joe sees this and gets angry at her, but she says she just wants to help him. So from then on, Joe and Marie spend the whole day checking up on all the people on Joe's list. They even go to Chinese restaurants to find out the dumplings that he had been eating during his confinement. He's alone when he finally finds the restaurant. Joe sees a man taking a lot of dumpling bags, so he decides to chase after the guy on a delivery boy's bicycle. Joe enters the secured area and he starts beating up the man with a hammer. He even eliminates the guard sitting on the front desk before going into Cheney's room. Joe spends a long time torturing Cheney by cutting the skin around his neck. Eventually, Cheney gives him the tape recording of the guy who paid for Joe's confinement. However, Cheney's men are outside the room, so Joe has to leave. Dozens of men attack Joe, but he just keeps beating them down with his hammer. They hit him with bats and every other object. But Joe is pretty much indestructible when it's all said and done. He has taken out nearly 100 people when he finally gets outside. However, he's been stabbed, so he's bleeding. So, men bring him back to Chucky's bar. Chucky calls Marie, who brings Tom to treat Joe's wounds before leaving. Tom tells Joe not to involve Marie in any of this. So, Joe asks Marie to go back home because this has nothing to do with her. That night, Joe is having a drink at the bar when he calls his kidnapper. He finds out that the kidnapper is in the bar. And his name is Adrian. Adrian shows Joe Don's murder video and asked him to find out who Adrian is and what Joe did to deserve 20 years of imprisonment. He says if Joe finds out the answers to these questions in 46 hours, he will release MIA and also give Joe $20 million in diamonds. He also promises to shoot himself if Joe succeeds. After this, Adrian leaves and tells Joe to go save Marie being attacked by Cheney's men. Joe runs there and Cheney's men quickly take him under control. Cheney wants to torture him, but Adrian gives him a lot of money to let Joe go. Marie is in shock, but she still wants to help Joe, so she tries to find out the ringtone that his phone has because it sounds familiar to Joe. They find out the ringtone is a piece of music played at Evergreen Academy. Joe used to study there, but it's closed now. So, they decide to meet the headmistress of the academy while Marie is talking to the headmistress. Joe sneaks into the house and looks out all the pictures from his time at the academy. After this, Joe and Marie decide to visit the academy to find out more about the students. They make a stop at a motel where Marie is changing Joe's bandage when they start kissing and making out. Adrian is watching all of this, and he is happy at what he's seen. That evening, Chucky finds out Adrian's true identity and he calls Joe. He says the whole thing is about Adrian's whore sister on the phone, and Adrian listens to this voicemail. He goes to Chucky's bar and strangles him for calling his sister a whore. On the other hand, Joe breaks into the Evergreen Academy at night and finds out that Adrian is the elder brother of Amanda. Amanda was Joe's classmate, and Joe and Chucky used to bully her. Donna was there too, and she used to stop Joe from hurting Amanda. One night, Joe saw Amanda making love to her father. The whole thing became messy, and Amanda's family had to go back to Luxembourg. There, Amanda's father shot his entire family before committing suicide. And the only survivor was Adrian. He is the only surviving heir of $1 billion family. Joe wants to confront Adrian, but when he gets out of the academy, he sees Chucky's tongue inside a box that's sitting on his car. He takes Marie back to her house and asks her to stay there. But she doesn't want him to go. She is worried that he will die. Still, Joe goes to Adrian's penthouse. He has a rod in his hand and Adrian's female bodyguard tries to take him down. But Joe slashes her throat. The woman dies, and Adrian asks Joe if he knows the truth about everything. Joe says he knows that Adrian's family had to leave the USA. When Joe saw Amanda with his father, he said that story to everyone in school, and everyone made fun of Amanda and called her a whore. Adrian says that it had a profound effect on his father, who was being questioned by everyone, so he decided to take out his entire family. There's something wrong with Adrian, who thinks it was okay for his father to abuse his entire family. He doesn't hate his father. Instead, he admires him. He blames Joe for whatever happened. However, Joe has found the secret. So, Adrian gives him the diamonds. He also takes him to a TV show set. Adrian says that the crime show Joe used to watch was all fake. And MIA is also a fake girl. She isn't Joe's daughter, and her true name is Ashley, who works as an actress. After this, Adrian finally tells him the real truth. Marie is Joe's real daughter, and Adrian gave her a fake identity. He raised her so that one day she would meet Joe and they could commit the sin that they did. Joe is ashamed of what he has done, and he wants Adrian to put the bullet in his head instead. Adrian says he is now happy because he has achieved his life goal of making Joe realize what he did all those years ago. So Adrian shoots himself in the head sometime later. Joe sends Marie a letter telling her to start a new life without him. He also gives her a bag full of diamonds. After this, Joe goes back to the jail where he was held captive. He gives Cheney a lot of diamonds to let him stay in the same room where he spent the last 20 years of his life. The film ends with Joe eating the same dumplings and sitting on his bed with a smile on his face. That was all from the video. I hope you liked it. Subscribe for more content like this and hit the like button to help us out. Also, leave a comment if you want us to explain your favorite movie. Until next time, take care.